Have you noticed that Nigerian women and West African women hardly marry poor foreigners? Like, hold on, think about it for a minute. Because I have been observing this thing for a while and I'm like, oh wow. A lot of Africans believe that Nigerian women and West African women are not really liked. A lot of men don't like to marry from Nigeria or West Africa. And so even Nigerian men are not marrying Nigerian women. Even West African men are not liking to marry West African women. Sorry, that's not the case here, okay? That's not the case. But the issue is a lot of Nigerian or West African women don't really like to marry out. They don't like to marry outside our tribes or village. Some people like to marry inside from their village, like they don't like to even go far. Some might say, okay, let's be less tribalistic and marry from another tribe. Some might say, okay, let's marry from a neighboring country, let a Ghana person marry a Nigerian and stuff like that. I'm talking about the women because we all know West African men, Nigerian men most especially, marry from anywhere. They don't care. In fact, that is also one of the reasons a lot of these African women think that, oh, because Nigerian men are finding them marriable, then it means Nigerian women are not attractive or good enough to marry, not knowing that Nigeria is very populated. The amount of men coming to marry from other African countries does not mean that they're having Nigerian men in Nigeria marrying Nigerian ladies or West African men marrying West African ladies. I don't know what's giving them this idea. Why a lot of West African women, let me say Nigerian women, do not like to marry within some specific African countries, especially if it's not a West African country. I think it's because we hear the way these women talk about their men and we are not interested. I don't know if you get. And we see the way they rush Nigerian men and we're like, if they're rushing Nigerian men like this, that means their men might not be doing that well. And in Nigeria here, Nigerian men are not really, should I say, being hyped like that in Nigeria because, this thing they call see finish. The same way Nigerian men do not really hype Nigerian women because, we're like brothers and sisters, we see ourselves everywhere. So if you go outside and they hype you, you'll be like, this is not Nigerian men. So if a Nigerian woman is being hyped, Nigerian woman will be like, it's not Nigerian women again. It's not people I'm seeing here. So it's kind of a see finish thing, or should I say over familiarity, but it doesn't mean we don't know our goodness. We don't know the places we are good in. It doesn't mean that we are terrible people. It just means that we are over familiar. So sometimes we don't know what we have because of over familiarity. But then it still doesn't mean we do not know what we have like that. Like we know, but we're not just hyping it the way a lot of our African sisters and sisters abroad and foreign women are hyping it. I don't know if you get. So number one thing is a West African man, West Africa generally, before I was thinking it's just a Nigerian thing, but I observed that it's actually a West African thing. A lot of West African countries or cultures have the belief that a man has to be the provider. It doesn't have to be any other way around. If the woman wants to support, it's fine. A lot of these men will not even collect their wife's money. Some of these men will even say, oh, their wife should just sit down and relax. In West Africa here, a woman who is a housewife is not seen as a taboo. You can see a lot of families where the man is really providing and the wife is a housewife. She's taking care of the kids. It's normal culture here. But then I learned, or at least let me say, from what a lot of our African sisters from other parts of Africa say, it almost looks as if over there, it is almost impossible for you to be a housewife. In fact, sometimes they are the ones carrying the family on their shoulders. Like, I'm not saying you cannot find a West African woman who is the breadwinner, but I'm saying it's not normal. It's not the culture. Like, even the man who cannot provide in West Africa feels ashamed. Sometimes the woman who is providing has to even cover up for her man. She'll be telling outside that her husband that is providing, just to cover up and boost his ego. You don't expect a West African woman or a Nigerian woman who is used to being provided for by her father, because the first place you are going to experience this provision is from your father. I have to hail Nigerian men in this one. Nigerian men, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, there's always exceptions, but in Nigerian culture, normally, Nigerian men love to take care of their kids, their families, they pamper their daughters. Now, I'm not talking about deadbeat dads. They definitely exist in everywhere. There are always people all these men that will up and leave their family and come back after years expecting that, oh, let their family still be loving them. Yeah, those type of men, they exist everywhere. Don't worry. It's not just in your place. But in Nigeria, or should I say West Africa, fathers love to take care of their daughters, love to take care of their families, love to take care of their wives. It's cultural here. These men will even take care of the wife's family sometimes. Those ones are called odogus. Although I will not say it's compulsory, but some of these men just do it because they want to be held or they feel a sense of responsibility. Sometimes they're just helping. Sometimes they're just too kind-hearted. They cannot overlook. An average West African woman who grows up in this kind of environment does not want to find herself in a place where she will literally have to be begging a man to know that he's meant to provide. So the cultural differences is exactly why a lot of West African women wouldn't want to marry outside West Africa. And if they must marry outside West Africa, it has to be a rich man. West African woman might play love and, manage and marry a poor West African man or poor Nigerian man, but they are very strict when it comes to foreign relationships. In fact, if the lady says she's not going to be strict, her family members are going to drag her ears and be like, what are you saying? What are you trying to do? Because I have noticed that in some parts of Africa, because I watched some documentaries, I'll see where a lady will just open leg for a foreigner because he's Chinese or because he's a white man. She will give birth to him. I think maybe there's this rave of, oh, we must have mixed kids, we must have mixed babies. I don't know, maybe that's what's going on there. They hold foreigners in so much high regard that they don't even care to scrutinize whether this person is ready to be a husband, whether he can provide for the family. Because, as a woman, if you are getting married, you are going to leave your country most of the time and relocate to wherever the man is from or wherever the man is living. If the man cannot provide for you in a foreign country, my dear, you are lost. Before you will even come back, to even see visa to come back to your family. See, if you marry a poor man in your country, it's very easy for you to survive because you can run back to your family or you can find something to do. But when you are in a foreign territory that you don't know much about, and the man cannot even provide for you, or the man turns out you went and you found out that this one is a poor foreigner, so you now go abroad and be rolling in poverty. You are going to suffer, my dear. It's better to be poor in your country than to be poor abroad. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So I noticed in a lot of these African documentaries, you see a woman crying, saying she has a child for a foreigner, the foreigner has left. And in fact, in a lot of these stories, the women are never married to this foreigner. So I'm like, I don't get this. Even makes it worse. Like, is it because it's a foreigner? Because if it's a black man now, I'm sure these women will not open leg. I don't know that they think because he's a foreigner, that means he's rich. Or even, I highly believe it is because they want mixed babies. Yeah, there's a lot of hype around mixed race kids. So maybe these women just want mixed babies. That's what I'm thinking. There are lots of African people that hold Westerners in high regard. But it's not really like that in a lot of West African countries, at least for Nigeria. Even the women who date Western men who come to Nigeria, they don't date the poor ones. Like, these women are 100% sure that these men have cash. And that is why you see them even going as far as dating them. Because an average Nigerian or West African woman does not even prefer a foreign man. Does not prefer. So if she must go with a foreign man, then why not be with a rich foreign man? I think that's the mindset. This is my theory. I'm just saying. But then, if you think about it, West African men are very capable. So why will a West African woman want to go out? West African men provide, are very masculine. They hardly up and leave their kids. I'm not saying they aren't the ones that leave their kids. Yeah, they might not be caring like that, but then a lot of them are still willing to learn to be caring, especially if they really love you. And then if it is bedmatics, skills on the bed, they are not lagging behind. So what exactly is the reason a West African woman would want to marry a foreigner over a West African man? You have to really bring in your A game to impress a West African woman because she's already impressed back home. In fact, a West African woman has high expectation. I think it's because of being overly pampered. We have high expectations of marriage. Even if a West African woman wants to settle for less, you see her family members, her relatives, they will warn her. Anyway, even if the man comes, the man say he has finally seen the love of his life, he came and he wants to pay the bride price. Maybe he will jam the girl's family. That time, the girl's family now have time to discuss whether they will accept this kind of in-law. Now, the man still will now realize that, oh, he's not just dealing with the woman, because in West Africa here, it's mostly a family thing. So if you are marrying someone, you are literally marrying the family. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So the family must scrutinize and know whether you are good enough for their daughter. And trust me, these older men and women, they are more brutal than West African women. In fact, the older West African gets, the more brutal, the more the scrutiny, the more they, looking around to know whether there is loopholes or flaws. Like, to impress them, to impress the older generation is not easy, especially if that girl is even from a rich home. See, you can easily impress a poor person, but if that lady is from a rich home, like she grew up rich, guy, your money needs to be extremely long. Because even back here in West Africa, these rich men are not willing to give their rich daughters, not willing to give their daughters who grew up in rich homes to poor men. Forget about what you watch in the television. In real life, it doesn't really work like that. Oh. Same thing with men who grew up in rich homes. Their mothers too really want their sons to marry within the circle. The rich want to marry the rich. I know that a lot of poor people really want to marry the rich, but the percentage of marriages that work like that are very few. Like, there must be something so damn special about you that made that rich man to come and marry you that is from a poor family, because you're not even within his circle. Same thing with a poor man marrying a rich girl. I've given the reasons why West African women hardly marry foreigners, and even if they do, it just has to be a rich foreigner. Like, anytime you see a West African woman getting married and you turn around and you say, oh, it's a white man, trust me, chances are it's a rich white man, not just a white man. Because West Africans are looking out for a lot when it comes to foreigners. The hype around Westerners is not as big of a deal as it is in a lot of other African countries. I'm not saying they don't see Westerners as a big deal here. I'm simply saying that the hype is not that much compared to other countries that will just even have babies for these men without collecting bride price, without being married, just because they want to have mixed race kids. No, that logic doesn't work here. I'm not saying there aren't West African women who do this. So yes, there is always an exception to the rule, but they are not the majority. Besides that, a lot of these Western men that even come to live in, let me say, Nigeria, I don't know about other West African countries, they're hardly poor, because for them to survive in Nigeria, they need to have at least to live in high-end areas, and those high-end areas are not cheap. So a lot of them are quite okay and well-to-do, at least enough to survive in Nigeria. So what do you guys think about this? And have you also made this observation like I have? If you have, say why you think this is. And I know there are West African women that are also marrying poor foreigners, but like I said, there is always an exception to the rule, and they are not the majority, okay? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.